Hi, welcome to Drink a Drink a Drink, Drink a Drink a Drink podcast. Today's guest is a charming, lovely a gentleman called Tim Rice, who's written some extraordinary lyrics in his life. And he's going to be chatting with me about all those, the stories behind the lyrics. And so I hope you enjoy us. And so we'll drink a drink to the next, however long it takes. Cheers. Hi, Tim.
Michael, good to see you.
And you. Welcome to my drink a drink podcast. Now, as it seems in the title that you're supposed to drink something, right?
Right.
I have a little drink here. Do you like
I've
the
got
cup?
a modest drink here.
Do you like the cup?
It's a Peroni. Are you allowed to advertise? All I have, it's Peroni.
Look at the cup.
Oh, right. Very good.
And Josh, my producer, my son Josh, has made these drink a drink mat.
Brilliant. I
Yeah.
haven't got mine yet. My free mat hasn't arrived in the post.
Yeah. So you're going for a Peroni.
I'm going for a Peroni, yes.
I'm gonna go Bonnie Peroni.
I heard that on the radio the other day. Larry Williams on an
Great,
oldie.
yeah.
I heard it for ages. And it had a strange line in it, making love underneath the apple tree, which had nothing to do with anything else in the song.
That's right. I gotta go Bonnie Maroney.
Anyway.
She's as happy as a stick of macaroni.
Yes. An interesting analogy.
Yeah. Anyway, it is not Tim, by the way. I can put my glasses on now.
Right.
It is Timothy, Sir Timothy.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it should be. Sir Timothy Miles Bindon Rice.
Yes.
Well, what's Bindon?
Well, Bindon is the name of my great uncle, whom I never knew. And trying to keep the family history short, but my father was orphaned by the time he was 9. And he was brought up by his aunt and uncle, his uncle being Uncle Bindon, strange name, but
I get you.
obviously I wasn't around when my dad was 9, but by the time I was around, Uncle Bindon, who I never knew, had died, sad to say. I mean, he was an old, he was, I think he'd had a reasonably good life, 75 or something or more. Which these days is nothing, as we both know. It is a funny name. Occasionally I've come across it. There was some bloke, Captain Bindon Blood, who was some naval admiral who I think got court-martialed for something. I'm not sure. But that's about it. Oh, there was an actor called John Bindon as well. As a first name, I've never come across it before.
Yeah, I wish I'd never asked now.
Yeah. Listen, this podcast can only improve.
Couldn't get any worse.
Yeah, right.
Now, you were born on 10th of November, 1944.
Correct.
Same as what year I was born.
And what month were you born, Michael? That's the important
7th
thing.
of January, so I'm the superior one.
Oh, you're a lot older than me. A lot.
Right. And you were born, it says here, in my notes here. I'll show you. Here's my notes, okay?
Right, got them. Yep.
And you were born in an historic country house called Chardelois. Chardelois?
Yes, Chardelots. Well, it sounds quite posh, but it wasn't really because it was...
Oh, is it was it two up, two down?
No. It's a beautiful home, beautiful house, which is still there. But in the war, it was commandeered by whoever.
Yeah, I read that.
As a nursing home, and my mum went in there for 3 days to have me. And then,
right.
but technically I was born in this very posh house, which then went back to being. It was owned by some very smart Hertfordshire or Buckinghamshire family, and they went back to the house after the war, which they'd given over to the government or whatever for the duration.
Yeah.
And then when I think about 1970-ish, they sold it and it was converted into flats, very upmarket flats.
Oh,
But the
okay.
house is still there, lovely grounds. I've been back to the house once or twice.
Oh, okay. And your dad, you just mentioned your dad. He was called Hugh Rice,
Correct.
or should I say Major Hugh Rice?
Well, he ended up a major in the war, yes, which is, I mean, he had a good war, if that's possible. I mean, he was lucky not to be killed. And
My
he,
dad,
yeah, what about
my,
your?
my dad was very highly commissioned because he had his right ear. He would sit that way to us in the lounge because that right ear meant that he couldn't. He was, dodgy, so he couldn't go in the army. So he ended up in the wonderful position on the top of all these buildings in Liverpool with a bucket of sand and a bucket of water to put the incendiaries out.
Wow, very important job.
Just imagine.
How many were there? I mean, was it like one a day or 10 a day or one a month or what?
Just imagine bang and trying to put it out with a
Bucket
bucket
of
of.
sand. Oh, maybe it must have worked if somebody came up with that idea.
Yeah, crazy. And your mum was Joan Odette.
Yes. And
That's
funnily
all.
enough, she wrote a book about her wartime experiences. Here it
Oh,
is.
good.
It's called
Sand in
Sand
My
in My
Shoe.
Shoes. It's rather good. It's her wartime diaries. And she discovered them. Well, I mean, she always knew she had them, but she got them out again when my daughter Eva had a book published. And my mum was quite impressed with the fact that her granddaughter had written a book. And
Your Eva, by the
Eva,
way,
yeah, Eva.
wouldn't be named after the Peron Eva.
Well, I guess it was because she was born about the time I was working on Evita, and we didn't know at that point if the show was even going to happen, let alone be a hit.
Oh, okay.
But it was a nice name. I mean, Ava Peron would be Ava, and the
Yeah.
English version is Eva. But it's actually now, funnily enough, it was a rare name when we had our Eva, but funnily enough now you come across quite a lot of Evas in England who are aged about 20, 25. So
We
I
had, we had the
think it's
same
starting a
thing.
trend.
We had the same thing with my producer here, who was called Joshua Michael. And
Right.
Joshua, in those days, when we named him that, no one was called
No, you're
Joshua.
right. You're right. You're right.
Now everybody is.
Yeah, well,
And
it's
we,
a good name.
we named a boy Sonny. And of course, in fact, we named him Sonny William Nathan McCartney,
That
just
was
in case.
Josh's brother, is that right?
Yeah, his youngest brother, the youngest of all my 6 kids. And
Blimey.
I had 3 girls and then 3 boys.
Well, that's a brilliant organization.
Sorry about that.
Congratulations.
You've got 3 daughters
I've got 3 daughters and 1 son. Yep.
and a son, that's right.
Yeah.
Well done.
There's still time to catch up with you.
Yes.
I just need 2 more boys.
Now, you were schooled in Hearts at St. Albans and Lancing College, later the Paris Sorbonne.
Yes, well, yes. I mean, I went briefly to a school in St Albans. Then I went to Lancing, which was a sort of good Division 2 middle class public school, which I enjoyed. And I didn't go to university, but my parents were a little bit disappointed that I didn't want to go to university. I'm not quite sure why, but I just didn't want to go. So
Because you were thick.
yes, no, I think because I was very intelligent. But anyway, they thought I should have a bit of a gap before going into the wicked world. So they sent me off to Paris, where they'd found a course in French at the Sorbonne. And I'd got French A level. My French was okay. And I was there only for 6 months, but it was great fun. And I brushed out my French, but I spent most of my time going to movies in Paris. But it was an enjoyable experience.
Now, is that a tax machine sending you something?
No, when? Oh, you mean what? Oh no, that tax. That was the printer. I was so enthralled with what I was saying, I
Yeah,
didn't.
yeah,
It's something printed. It's probably a writ.
yeah. Is this true that you entered a Sun contest of what would top the charts, right? You had to guess
Yeah,
what number would chart, and you got Wandering Star right, yeah?
absolutely. No, no, you're dead right. It's I don't know where you got all this material from. It's a bit worrying,
Excuse
but
me, pal. It's all in here.
it's all in there somewhere. No, there was a. This was before I'd had any. I mean, I was working at EMI, I think, at the time,
Oh,
or
right.
maybe even working with the Great Glory. Must have
With
been.
the,
Anyway, it was in the days about the time we first met, and there was a competition in the Sun, which I was obviously reading somebody else's copy, if you understand,
yeah,
and
because if you were in Liverpool, they'd beat you up if you're reading it.
exactly.
No.
No, well, I think it was before, you know, before all that tragedy and everything. But anyway, the competition was to prophesy the top 10 in 3 weeks' time. And the prize was a trip to Luxembourg to be a disc
Ah,
jockey.
for
And so
20 minutes. For
yeah,
20
so
minutes. You went
20
all the
minutes,
way
yeah,
to Luxembourg to be a
yeah.
DJ for,
Well, I won because
yeah.
Rondin Star was only number 49 when the competition was announced. And I just thought that was a promising, I mean, it was a kind of record that went to number one
I
because it was
loved
so
it.
unusual. And it was a great record, Lee
Oh,
Marvin, and I think it was a bit like the football pools. You could do 8 or 9 different columns, and I put Wandering Star number one at one of them. And when I checked it, I was pleased I got Wandering Star number one, but I only got about 6 others right. But that was quite good actually. And then I got a letter from the Sun saying you've won,
uh,
congratulations. And then I heard nothing for about a month.
oh,
And,
okay.
and I rang up and said,
The
"Yeah,
sun.
where's my trip to Luxembourg?" And they said, "What? Do you really want to go?" And I said, "Yes."
Luxembourg.
Yeah,
How important was that to us?
it was.
Channel
Yeah,
9, the radio station, the pirate radio,
yeah,
Luxembourg. With who was it? Jack Jackson was
yes,
from
Jack Jackson.
Luxembourg, wasn't he?
Yes, and although I always remember that religious nut at the end. Who was it? Well, there was the Pools guy who
Oh, oh,
Keynsham in Bristol, Arthur
yeah,
Batchelor, Horace Batchelor.
Horace
It,
Bachelor from
right to
Cambridge.
Keynsh. And Father Garner Ted Armstrong has just come back to me.
Oh, no.
He had a religious program on about 11:45, which you had to sit through to wait for the top 20 or something.
Right.
But anyway, the Sun were a bit miffed at having to actually fulfill their promise, so they dug up the gardening correspondent or someone and said, take this idiot to Luxembourg. And we went out there and we stayed in a tolerable hotel. And I went to the station, and the radio station hadn't really heard much about me either. And it
Uh,
was Tony Prince.
yeah.
And when I that's right, we just put out the single of Superstar, which hadn't done anything at that point. And I said, well, I am sort of trying to make it in your business. And he was quite impressed. He played the record and said, well, look, I need to go and have a wee or something. So take over for 15 minutes. So I really did. He trusted me. And I
Oh,
played a couple of
really?
records, played requests for friends of mine who weren't even listening. And, and then came home. And that was my first brush with worldwide fame, or at least Luxembourg.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Now, but more importantly, when did we meet?
Well, we would have met with Norrie Paramore through
That's
Norrie.
right.
Yeah,
Laurie Power.
when Norrie was he'd just left EMI, and he took me as his assistant, and he had a small staff, mainly his family and me. And you lads came in, and you'd had a few hits. You were quite well known, and you were on EMI. And
Yeah, I wrote Thank You Very Much.
yeah, thank you very much.
It's like a theatre thing. And
Yeah,
then we did then we did Good Bat
today's,
Night Man, which
yes, I like that.
lovely.
And
Well, that
today's
was
Monday, I like that. Today's Monday.
today's Monday was the first with
Yeah.
Three Blind Jellyfish. George Martin did that beautiful string arrangement
Oh,
on
really? I didn't.
Three
George.
Blind.
Yeah.
Yeah, George. That's why we went with him. it wasn't because of the Beatles, because in our house we had an LP called Songs for Swinging Cellars,
Oh, I know that one. Yeah, very funny.
produced by George Martin.
Yeah.
So that in our Two Up, Two Down, Fourth Lane Road, that's where I wanted to scaffold. If we could get this bloke that did Peter Sellers, the Goons, Peter
Yeah.
Sellers, that's the one you go for.
Yeah, comedy and music, which you did brilliantly, you guys.
Eh?
And anyway, Norrie was, I don't know how that happened, how you actually then came to Norrie, but you came up with Lily the Pink, and Norrie said, I think this could do all right. And it sounded good to me. But we then, I mean, Norrie, bless his cotton socks, he was hardly in the studio. I think he checked that, and
You
you
did a book,
were
didn't
running the
you?
shop.
You did a book, and you wrote in it
Oh
that
no, what did I say?
Norrie produced it, or should I say, Mike McGear did.
Yeah. Well, it was true. And I think my main job was getting cups of tea, and
Yeah. Oh,
it was
good. I've
yeah,
been telling
it
people,
made all the difference, frankly.
yeah,
To
I've been
say,
telling people for 100 years that Tim Rice was the tea boy, the coffee boy on
I
Lily
was.
the Pink. But no, weren't you called a co-producer?
No, I got co-production credit on the next one, which flopped or didn't do very well. I was rather annoyed. I thought this is bound to be a hit after the number one. It's a massive number one, and the next one stopped blowing those charity bubbles.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Co-producing credits, which was lovely. I was very thrilled by that. But
yeah. Well,
the thing about Lily the Pink, which I thought was very funny, was that every day you say, "Oh, I've got somebody else to come in," and Graham Nash would walk in, or Mike.
that's right.
I thought,
That's
I don't know how many more pop stars we're going to add to this record, but it's never going to come out at this rate.
That's right, yeah. And in fact, what I rang him, Graham Nash, and said to him, "Look, we're doing a Mickey take. We're doing a song called Lily the Pink, and we're doing a Mickey take of your Jennifer Eccles, which had just had number one, I think.
Yeah, well, it wasn't quite number. It's a big hit, though.
Big hit.
Jennifer Eccles, I know that she loves me. It was
Yes.
good. Lovely big hit, that one.
And so I said to him, "Do you want to come in and sing the verse?" He said, "Oh, yeah, yeah." And he came into Abbey Road and sang Jennifer Eccles had terrible freckles, and the boys all called her names. So
Yeah.
we gave her medicinal compound. Now he joins in all their games.
Well, you're ahead of your time there.
Yeah, wasn't I?
The first trans record, I never thought of that. Good heavens. Well, you'll either be banned forever
Yeah.
or become a new hero. Yes.
Transcenders.
Well, well, I remember Graham coming in. I was terribly thrilled to meet a Holly. For some reason, I don't think he was that thrilled to meet me, but I made him a nice cup.
He was. He was. And then what was great, when it came out, everybody thought, because we're on the telly all the time,
Yeah.
and everybody thought, because Roger McGough sang Jennifer Eccles, everybody thought it was Rog. And then if you listen to that song, have you ever put it on recently?
Well, yeah. Well, I've heard. I mean, every time it comes on the radio, and it still does, I always turn it up to hear my one mini line.
Now tell them that how important you were to Lily the Pink.
Yeah. Well, it was even the Jennifer Eccles verse.
It
He
was.
went, Jennifer Eccles has terrible freckles, and the boys all called her names, and I went with a bloke, the only bloke in EMI, even junior to me, called Martin Wilcox, and he was like the office boy, and he and I had to go na 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 na, which you can just about hear on the stereo mix. I
That's
thought
it.
the producer rather didn't make the most of that. I felt I'd like to complain now, if I may.
Yeah, yeah. And in fact, I remember you telling me once, "Don't forget, Michael, I was a na."
Yes. And I would say to people to this day, my first ever big hit, my first number one was Lily the Pink. And they say, were you John? Were you Roger? You obviously not.
In fact, yesterday in the car park in Liverpool, the NCP, I got in, and two couple got in, and they stood there, and the blokes looked at me. He said, "Roger McGough." I said, "Nearly." Now, do you
Oh, wow.
remember on that Lily the Pink, the bass drum. I said to Nori, can we have the bass drum? Because I'd heard that what they call the Who were getting nowhere, right? And they were going down. They weren't going to happen. And then suddenly they went to the top of the charts. And they said, how do you do that? And he said, whoever, Peter or somebody, I think it was Peter Anderson, said, oh, it's easy. When we were recording it, we thought we'd better find out what the kids are dancing to today. So they went to the nightclub next door and listened to what the kids were dancing to. Boom, 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 boom. Went back in the recording studio and did a song called Boom, 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 and got to number one. And so I said to Nori, now here, Nori, this is very important. The boom, 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 the bass drum thud. Can you whack it up? And he said, yeah, engineer, whack it up. And the engineer said, as you said, so many people on this track, you know, we haven't got anything left. And so I've got to have the whole secret, the Who's secret is the boom, boom, boom. And so he said, sorry, I can't, I'll have to bounce it down. Can't do it today. Got another session coming in. So I had to, do you know this story? I had to go in the next day into the Pink Floyd studios, number 3, was it?
I think we did Leave Pink mainly in number 3, I think.
Or yes, it was.
Number 3, yeah.
It was 3 because I said to Mike Vicker and probably you, I said, what's he doing out there? And they said, oh, he needs a session. So I went out into they were all, Scaffold didn't play instruments. So, so you had to have backing singers and musicians. And so I went there, I saw this man that I recognized, and I went up to him and said, hello, Jack Bruce of the Cream, right? Of Cream.
Right.
Do you know who's the bass on that? On Lily.
He was the bass on. Oh, did Jack play bass on that?
Jack Bruce. Yeah. And so I said to him, look, Jack, whatever you want, do whatever you want. You're Jack Bruce of Cream. Do it. He says, Mike, I've been listening, looking at the dots, and the idea for that, I think the only thing on this song is boom, boom, boom. Oh, what's that? Oh. Something went, bling. Probably an angel coming out. He said, Mike.
It's Ghost. He
said, Mike, to tell you the truth, I think the best thing for this song is boom, 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 boom. I said, Jack, whatever you want. And that's what he played on the thing. And then they had no bass drum thud. So I had to go next day, and I went to number 2 studio. Number 1, no. Was it 1?
Number 1 was the massive great studio where a lot of classical stuff got done.
Well, no, 3 was the Pink Floyd then. As you come in.
Yeah, as you came in, number 3 was the first one you saw, I think.
Yes, that's right, on the left.
Number 2 was on the right, down the corridor. And then number 1 in the basement, I think.
It was the big bugger.
The canteen.
Yeah, that's near the canteen, that's right. And so I had to get a bass drum. And so I knew where it was. So I said, do you remember the Irishman on Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon?
Who was that? Oh.
The lovely Irish gentleman that talked in the Dark Side of the Moon. There's this gentleman talking about this and that and lovely thing is like that. He was the doorman, the security on Abbey Road. So
I got a royalty.
Yeah, you should have. Now, here, Pink Floyd, if you listen to this, give him his royalty. And so I said to him, excuse me, have you got the keys to that cupboard at the top of the stairs before the restaurant, that cupboard there? Because I knew our kid and his Beatles had the drum kit in it, Ringo's drum kit. And he said, oh, no, that's the Beatles. You can't have that. That's the Beatles cupboard. So I said, it's all right, I'm from Liverpool. He said, oh, here's the key. So I got the drum kit, got the big bass drum out, took it onto the Cheers Don, took it on the out to number 2, no, 1, no, 3, put it on, whatever, studio, put it on the floor, put my overcoat on it to give it the right
I do remember.
front.
I remember this. I remember because
Yeah.
I remember you bashing away.
Bashing a wheel, boom, 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 boom. So you were there for that.
No, I
You
was telling you,
recorded that.
I've got this image of you
Yeah.
looking. I think it was number 3 because I can see you through the glass, looking
Right.
like you trying to escape from jail or something, And it was one of the last things that was added on, I think, if not the
Yes, it
last.
was. It
Yeah,
was because they had to bounce the track down to give me the room for that.
and it
And
had to
then,
be in the shops the next day, more or less. Your
yes, it
coat was
was.
very fine for Christmas.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So they're the stories of that's right. Graham Nash, Jack Bruce, Ringo's drums. I think that's it. There'll be another one that I can't remember.
Mike Vickers was involved, and he was the Manfred Mann man.
Manfred
Mike
Newman.
track, yes. And of course, you three
Yes, that's right.
and me.
And was it Elton on that?
I I don't think so. No, he was on a few sessions then, wasn't he? I
He
don't think.
was, yeah.
Think
He told, I tell you, he
he might,
told me.
but he
He,
wouldn't have been
he,
a star then, so we might not have recognised him.
he told me, do you remember the Wings? Did you go to the Wings launch in London?
I think I did. Yes, years and years ago. Obviously,
And I think he was there uh, in his
was that when
short.
your brother wore a suit that hadn't been finished? I can't remember.
Oh,
Paul
no,
Paul wore a suit that hadn't been finished completely. It was all sort of. I mean, he'd ordered it from the tailor, and it was. But some of the bits were still half finished, and it was. I think he was trying to start a new fashion, which never caught on.
yeah, yeah. I think he was poor and couldn't afford a real suit himself.
Right.
In that's where, at that launch, in whatever ballroom it was, when I went to for a wee, there was a young lad there from Dick James Music, right?
Well, that could well have been Elton, I guess.
I'll tell you, he comes in and we're peeing together, and he says, "They were great days, weren't they?" I said, "Oh, hello, Reg." He said, "Oh, no, I'm not called Reg now. I'm called Elton John." And so
Okay.
I said, "Oh, that's good. Good on you. Good luck, son." And he said, "There were great days in Abbey Road, weren't there?" I said, "How do you mean?" He said, "Me and my mate used to come and be a backing singer for Scaffold." I'd forgotten.
Well, I remember the old backing singer, but of course I wouldn't have known who he was at that point.
No, we
It,
didn't. It just Reg from
yeah,
Dick
yeah.
Music, yeah.
Good heavens.
Yeah. And you were on Goose, weren't you?
Goose, yes, yes. And we did the album of Fresh Liver, of course,
Ah, now you're talking.
with Richard, with
Hold on.
Richard Branson's studio,
It
which
wasn't
was
by any
that's the
chance.
one. Yeah, that's the
Which
one.
album was it? Now look at this,
Yes,
viewers.
yes,
Look at this. Not only the vegetarian's nightmare, right?
yes. I'm not sure. Even then, it was a very commercial cover. Um,
No,
I
but
mean,
this, as you go inside,
the cover inside was lovely. That would have been a better front cover, I think. You know,
it bled over Lime Street
yes,
to
that was
Frisk
rather nice.
River.
Yes, I mean, except you wouldn't have known it was blood if you hadn't had the front.
Yeah.
So, but no. It was an enjoyable week down in Richard Branson's. It was almost. It
The
was when he had
manor.
the studio in Kirklington, was it in Oxfordshire? Kidlington,
Kidlington,
yeah.
the manor.
And yep, and it was an absolute shambles. And Richard was great, and I thought, well, this is so badly organised. This place, he'll
Yeah.
never be a success. And
Yeah, yeah.
the police would come in every so often and ignoring all the dope and everything, would say, Richard, you parked your car in Oxford, you owe us 20 quid or something. And he was always behind with his fines and everything. But, he made it. Tubular Bells was, I think, being recorded about the same time we were working there.
And the engineer was Tom Newman
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
on our album, who did Tubular
Yes.
Bells.
It was a clever idea. It was a sort of almost a new concept that you could book a studio for, 24 hours, and it's up to you when you went in.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that just worked well. It was a nice album. I played it a few times over the years.
Yeah, that, by the way, funny you should say that, Tim, because that is coming out with a firm called Esoteric Cherry Red Records,
I've heard of Cherry Red, yes.
coming out in April as a Scaffold box set,
Oh,
and
great.
fresh livers on it.
Fantastic. So it should be.
All the albums, all the singles,
Yeah.
lots of outtakes from the BBC, a,
Great.
a DVD of the Talk of the Town, Scaffold live at the Talk of the Town.
Yeah,
And
because we also I remember working on a very funny album when you were live in the festival hall.
yes, that's right, we did that.
A great album, and it was, terrific. And that was recorded, obviously, in maybe in two shows put together, if that. It might have all been just one show, but it was. I remember Norrie didn't have to do all that much alteration because it just went like a dream.
By the way, did you ever go to, you will have done, go to Norrie's house,
In Bishop's Avenue.
the
Was that?
one near Regent's Park?
Oh, yes, his flat in Harley House. Yes, well, that was where I went nearly every day to work.
Oh, good. So I went for the first time to get a white label of Lily the Pink. And I
Right.
walked in, and do you remember his wallpaper? Were all the gold discs
Oh,
of
yes,
all
yeah.
his artists
Yeah. No,
on
he
the
had
side.
amazing. I mean, the thing was, he was interesting because he was. I mean, George Martin, of course, was the big producer star. But Norrie was in the 50s and the early 60s, pre-Beatles. He had so many number ones, but of course, in those days, the British records, however good they were, tended not to be worldwide hits, or at least didn't make it in America. So he never really broke America. And but of course, he was unlucky that in the 50s and 60s, the world was such a big place. If something came out in England, it wasn't heard in America, if at all, for a long time. And it was a very parochial chart. But I mean, good. I mean, I thought the Shadows and Cliff Richard made some lovely records with Norrie, but none
Yeah,
of
yeah.
them in America, which was strange. But once the Beatles broke through, then everybody hit in America.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Yeah,
I blame my brother.
it's entirely his fault.
Thank
Totally.
you.
Yeah, you could.
Then when
Enough.
he gave me the white label, I went across the road. There was a Muse where John Peel lived. Do you
Oh
remember?
yeah,
Do you ever go to Peely's Muse?
I can't. I might have done. I can't remember. I knew where he lived anyway, so I must have been told that's where John Peel lives or something.
Yeah. So I went to where John Peel lived and said, "Okay, right, here you go. I've just got this from Norrie's over the road. Put it on because I want to hear your opinion." So he said he got a young lad to put it on for him, and he put it on, and it only got for the very, very quick on. He said, "That's number one." I said, "You're joking. Listen to the whole bloody thing." Oops, sorry, Mike. Oops. And I made him
He
listen
was
to that.
right. He was
And
dead.
no. And at the end, I said, "Okay, now what do you think?" He said, "It's still going to be number one, Mike." And then the young lad that put it on, it was a young lad called Mark Bolan, said,
Oh,
"I
yeah.
agree with him."
Yeah.
And both of them said that years before it was a hit.
Yeah,
So,
I remember John Peel promoting T-Rex, or Tyrannosaurus Rex as it was then.
yeah, that's right.
But and Mark was almost literally away with the fairies, and he had all these rather quaint, images, which were quite clever, but they were a little bit, I mean, they were like fairy tales. But once he got into rock and roll, he was brilliant.
Yeah, it was.
And sad that he, perished so early. It was been unlucky, I feel, but or very unlucky. But it was his career had
Yeah,
slightly tapered off. But you always felt that he was very talented. He would have come back with a few more hits, but never got the chance.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
if you think about people like that and John, if you think about that, the
yeah,
important people that have been taken away,
yeah,
and you just dwell on what they would be doing now, and it's horrible.
yeah.
I've just been reading some of the notes on fresh liver, and it's John Mago who's very good on his arrangements. He's up there now. Noam Yardley, Gobion,
Oh
he's
yeah,
up there with my mum and dad. But Ollie Halsall, oh, he's up there as well.
yeah. I think I read about Ollie.
Yeah, Andy Roberts, he's still with us. Neil Innes, he's up there.
Yeah, Neil. I mean,
Ronnie Zoot's up there. I went
Sue,
to his funeral.
George. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, all these wonderful peoples. But most important, it says here, uh, Jennings on fryers was a bloke called Tim Rice.
And he's still here, I think. Rumor has
Yeah,
it.
I hope so.
I may not last out this program, but right now I'm here.
Oh, yeah, well, you've only got 10 minutes to go.
Like I'm 50-50, I think. Yeah. No, I
Oh,
remember
no,
recording that one. It was a great fun recording the whole thing. I mean, there were great music, great musicians, good
yeah.
songs. Why Devon's Dead was that one? I remember that one. That was a
Oh,
good.
yeah. And
Yeah,
in
that's a good
fact,
song.
I'll ask my producer, can we put one of the tracks into the. We'll try and put a track. I like Nuclear Band. Remember
Oh
that
yeah.
one?
Yes.
Nuclear Band. And Dead Devon's Dead about a groupie.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they were lovely.
I
So,
think actually, I think I'll go and play the album, this evening, just to
yeah,
remind myself of the whole thing. I have played it over the years. I mean, it's one of the records I've always enjoyed playing to the friends occasionally because it's people don't believe I was ever involved in that sort of,
very
yeah,
classy.
yeah,
It's
class.
classy.
Yeah,
When I listen to that, I'm thinking, because we're always, it's drinker, drinker, thank you very much. And it's always a joker.
yeah.
I'm in love with WPC Hodges, all that.
I like that one. I thought that might have been a hit.
So did I. I like that one.
I'm in love with WPC Hodges. I'm in love with a wonderful lass. Wonderful PC Hodges, his first
Yeah,
class. It was a funny.
but, WPC Hodges is first class.
Yes.
And that, do you remember that Ollie Halsall solo, his guitar?
I remember
Absolutely.
him being a great player. I must
Oh,
refresh my memory on that particular solo.
he was ridiculous. Ollie
Yeah,
Halsall,
he was very good. Ollie.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, but of course, I'll be waiting for April when the Scaffold box set comes out.
I can't wait. Well, is it?
Did
Is
you
it?
know that, Tim? Did I tell you that?
Well, I think you mentioned it to me at
Yeah,
some point.
Cherry Red Esoteric.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
coming
mean,
out
I
in
think I've heard
April.
about it before,
It's
um,
April.
or read somewhere, maybe in Record Collector or something. But what's the overall thing called? Is it just called Scaffold Complete or
I think
Scaffold?
Scaffold box set. It's
Yeah.
like the definitive Scaffold collection.
Uh-huh. Well,
If
it'll
you're
be
in,
fantastic.
if you're insane, you're gonna love it.
I'll like it in that case.
Now then, here I've got first of all before we go, cricket.
Well, that's one of my. Oh, don't worry, that ringing. There's
Oh,
somebody.
good.
Somebody's rung the front doorbell, but I
Oh,
think
good.
my
You're,
pal will answer that.
Tim,
Anyway, sorry, cricket. Yes, a great
Tim,
sport in my opinion.
you're allowed to ad lib with doorbells and fax machines.
Right.
You're allowed to do what the
That was
hell
the
you
fax
like.
machine. That was the printer, a very modern printer. Well, only 5 years old. Fax machine is kaput. We don't use that anymore.
Yesterday,
Yesterday. Yes.
cricket.
Cricket, yeah. Well, I've played a lot of cricket in my time. I'm not very good, but it was a great social thing. Very nice on Sundays, occasionally, well, most Sundays in the summer. Good way to see friends. It's not too strenuous. I mean, I did play one game last year, but it's too dangerous for me now. I
Yeah,
can't,
absolutely.
I
Yeah,
can't
that's a
win, break your
hard,
fingers.
hard ball.
Oh, very
Yeah.
hard ball.
Now,
But
did you organise? Was there a charity doing Blenheim Palace? Did you organise that?
I've certainly played there. The Lord's Taverners, a charity outfit. I used to play with them quite a bit.
I think
So,
that was it.
in fact, I remember it. Gosh, you just reminded me. That was the time. I think that was the first time I'd. That might have been the first time I met you lot. You were there, weren't you? I
Yeah,
mean,
we came
I
down.
was out and about with
All
John Norman.
we came all the way down from Liverpool, stayed
Right.
at a hotel the night, came out. We didn't particularly dress in whites, but came out all the gear on, those pad
Yeah.
things, and bats, all those things. And I walked out, and everybody applauded. Josh, can you put some applause in there, please? My producer's going to have a big round of applause there. And walked to the stumps, is it, or the bit?
Onto the wicket. Oh, yeah.
The wicket.
Stumps,
There.
yeah. Onto the
And
wicket.
really steady, and he bowled. I was out the first go.
Oh, no.
Smashed the thing all the way from bloody Liverpool down there, and I was out first go. I had to go back.
They should have said no ball, and an illegal delivery. They would have let you in. But that happened to me in another charity game. I was out first ball, and the umpire said, "No, that was a foul ball, and it clearly wasn't. You can stay in." And I said, "I'm not going to stay in because I don't want to be out for naught twice in 2 balls."
And I want to get back to my Peroni in the tent.
Yes, exactly. The Peroni's in the tent. I don't think Peronis are around there, but I remember now that game. I think that was one of the first times I'd played cricket since leaving school, and I wasn't very good at cricket at school. But I liked the atmosphere so much that I began to think about organising a few games, and I organised a few games in the next few summers, and the team took shape, and it's still going.
I think we then went to Blenheim Palace, and we did a sketch.
Oh, good heavens! That's a very handsome. That must be one of your ancestors.
Yeah, that's it.
Terribly good-looking fellow.
Maybe I should just do this from now on.
He looks a bit sort of, how can I put it? Doesn't look quite as masculine as you do, but he's interesting.
Yeah, I could just stay like this, couldn't I?
Yeah, yes.
Much better. But then we did a sketch in the Blenheim Palace after that game. I think, yeah.
Well, it was a great game. I remember Michael Cox, who had a hit with Angela Jones, holding a brilliant catch. I don't know how he did it, but he sort of dived and held an amazing catch, and everybody's sort of jaws dropped. And then a couple of balls later, like he missed one, or one went past him that nobody could have got. And I remember John Foreman saying, "Where were you? Where were you?"
You were made a sir with a sword on your shoulders.
That's right. Yeah.
Is that with the original lovely Queen?
Yes, I was very lucky. I got the Queen, and yes, I did meet her once or twice since. She actually, funny enough, through cricket, she came to my team played the royal household, who were the butlers and the cooks and the chauffeurs, and it was in the grounds of Windsor Castle, and it was very informal, and the Queen turned up to say hello to everybody. And it was a very informal do. I mean, we all lined up and we were all introduced. And but she was very good. I mean, I think she just liked her staff and was quite keen to see them having a day off. And it was she was absolutely delightful. So
yeah, but did she talk to you?
Well, she did. On that occasion, we then repaired to a tent. Not me and the Queen alone, but a lot of people. And she circulated, and the Duke was there, and she posed with my team. I've got a wonderful photograph of the cricket team with the Queen in it, which is quite extraordinary. I mean, it was a very informal occasion. She planted a small tree, I remember, but I was a great fan. I mean, she was just she did a good job.
She was special, wasn't she? She was really in control. I had an exhibition that opened the Museum of Liverpool. It's called Mike McCartney's Liverpool, and she opened it, and came upstairs, and there you are. This is Mike McCartney, and she came over and she said, "Oh, hello, how are you?" I said, "Fine, thank you." She said, "Did you take all these photographs?" I said, "Yeah, I took everyone, and if you'd like me to take one of you, a special price." Josh will insert the second somebody got that, well, she's quick. She's very quick. She just killed herself laughing, and she got it. And then all the other equerries and all that were going, "Oh, Christ, he'll have his head off with him." And she got it. Oh, she's a lovely lady.
She was great. Very sad when she popped off. Funny enough, she died in the middle of a cricket tour of my team in Cornwall, and the game we were going to play I think it was almost the only day that the weather, it was September 2022, and it was almost the only day on our tour that didn't rain, and we were looking forward to actually having a game. And but the game was quite rightly cancelled, by both teams. We felt we didn't want to play, having just heard the Queen had died. But so I always associate her last day with a cricket match in Cornwall that didn't happen.
No, she was a special lady, that one. Okay, before we go, you have a star on the Hollywood Wall of Fame. Walk of Fame, was it?
Yeah. Well, that was when I worked for Disney for quite a long time, on Lion King and one or two other films. And to my amazement,
Is that someone doing a tap dance next year?
Yes. Oh, I don't know who it is. Oh, you mean, here? Sorry. No, that's my PA Eileen, who has been with me. She's on trial. She's only been with me for 46 years.
Is that all?
Yeah, but she's working quite well. She's hoping to be Employee of the Month next month. Yeah, exactly. So, no, sorry, Eileen, to stop your dancing practice.
Oh, sorry. Is that?
Don't worry, love. It's a feature. Now then,
It's live. Actually, it's not live, but you know what I mean.
one last question, but one most important. You are about to tour the UK.
I'm afraid I am.
Ireland and
Ireland. I did it. Yes, I did it last year, and it went rather well. And Liverpool was a great gig. I'm not doing Liverpool this time, unfortunately.
Hold on, but you are doing the London Palladium.
Yes,
which you were worried about, weren't you?
Well, I think it'll be okay. It's a great show. It's a great show. I hasten to add, it's me singing.
Now you've got no problems because we're coming.
End of problem. I'll spread the news. Well, it'd be great to see you. Come and have a Peroni afterwards.
Certainly would. So tell everyone that is listening how important it is to see your show.
Well, it's absolutely vital to see my show.
Thank you.
It's it's basically me chatting and introducing some really good singers, 4 West End singers and a band, and they play the hits from the musicals that I've been involved with, and it saves you going to the whole show.
No, we're coming anyway. You're not getting off that easy. Tell people what sort of songs they can expect to hear in your show.
Well, they'll get songs from Joseph, songs from Superstar, Evita, Lion King, Chess, and one or two. I've never been very good at writing pop hits, but I've had the odd chart record like Winter's Tale, and there's about 20 songs, and I think, bearing in mind that the audience coming will be people who know a bit about me and like musicals, they'll probably know 15 of the songs, but I do a few flops, which is quite funny, and I chat between them and introduce the songs and say, I'm extremely polite about the guys I've written with, like Elton and Andrew Lloyd Webber and Alan Menken and Bjorn and Benny, and they all get a plug, which they need.
By the way, when I do my treadmill, right? When I do, I'm supposed to do it every day. Whenever I do my treadmill, I always put my tape recorder on, and I don't know where they come from, but magic songs come every time, and they're different every time. You've been warned. You suddenly get the most extraordinary songs in the world, all you have to do is put words to them, and we'll make $1 million.
Right, no problem. End of problem. Will it be an argument about the publishing rights, though, maybe?
Yeah. Timothy Rice, Tim, I'm going to love and leave you now, my love.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Cheers, Tim.
Cheers. I've nearly finished my Peroni. I'd like to let you know I don't normally drink as much as half a bottle of beer a day. Cheers. Drink a drink a drink.
Drink a drink a drink. Bless you, son.
Okay. Thanks.
See you at the Palladium.
Okay. Look forward to that very much.
So, thank you very much indeed to Tim Rice, a lovely man. And if you want to know any more about Tim or his tour, it's in the description of this podcast. I hope you enjoy life and living it. Bye-bye.